My boyfriend suddenly told me he wants to establish traditional gender roles once we get married. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years now, and it has been wonderful. We have been talking about marriage lately as it felt right for the both of us. Over the course of our relationship, we often talked about what our goals are and what we wanted our future together to look like. I was always vocal about how I wanted a more equal, non-traditional relationship. We both work, we both don't want children. I expect to have a joint account with him and pay our expenses proportionally based on our income. I do make more than him, but I don't mind since I believe we are a team. And for the last 3 years, he's agreed with me. Or so I thought. These past 2 to 3 weeks, we have been setting a timeline on our wedding plans and all, basically talking about all the concrete steps and little details. And so, I asked him again, how he wanted our marriage to be like, but in more detail. He suddenly told me that he wants us to have traditional gender roles, and I was so confused. These past 3 years have not been that way. I am so confused how he just expects us to change after marriage. I have been dating him and wanting to pursue something serious with him because I love our current dynamic and he seemed happy too. I have made it clear since day one that I want to maintain what we have now until forever. He has never told me that that was not the case for him. Now I feel tricked, lied to. He told me that although I make more of the income, he wants to be the man of the house, the leader. And so what he says goes. He has the final say in the decisions. And I cannot question him. I told him this will lead me to not being heard and miserable. It will make me feel less valued. He says it's the best way to avoid arguments. Sure, less arguments because what I think wouldn't matter, but I will build resentment and then it's no longer a happy marriage. In my previous post, I mentioned that I have seen him binge-watching alpha male podcasts recently, and I don't know if he has always thought this way or if it's recent. All I know is that my whole body is telling me this is not it. I cannot marry him. It sounds like trouble, but am I correct for thinking this way? I don't know why, but the last 3 years have been so wonderful that it's so hard for me to wrap my head around this sudden switch. Please give me some advice and courage. Relevant comments, Lili Naoitian. It sounds like you never really knew him. He sounds like he's always been a misogynist. You just never got a clear and direct answer from him. You say you were always vocal about what you wanted, but was he? You never mentioned if he agreed with you. You said you asked him again, which shows you never had a solid answer yet. You both still talked about marriage? Did you both agree on things, or was he passively acknowledging? This doesn't sound like a sudden switch. This sounds like he was passive and now he's actively acting in his own best interests. It's just that it's come to crunch time. Maybe when you look back at your first interactions with him, you'll notice the pattern of passivity on his part. Not saying that this is the case or it's on you, but it's that the signs were always there. It's just not easy to recognize them. Women especially are conditioned to tolerate a lot of things because being single as a woman is the worst thing ever. To alpha males, as it happens. Be wary of what you think is right for you and what's expected of you to tolerate. OP, I think you are right actually. There were many times where he would just nod, and if I directed a question at him, he'd answer vaguely to kind of match mine and deflect. I think that made me think he agreed, especially since he never said anything opposing it, and he clearly knew my position. I think I just expected people to be honest, gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm naive, I guess. Thanks for your response. Dwells22301. This seems unrealistic. People change as they mature. Life and circumstances change. You need to be able to grow and change too. OP. Of course, I meant in the sense of the equality aspect of the relationship, that as we grow and we are thrown obstacles, we can still be a team and work things out. No one is below the other. Each person is valued equally, heard and loved. Mustang 1T671967. Maybe go to counseling. He may be watching these because he feels disrespect. Don't know, just must be a reason he just started listening to the podcasts. This is a huge deal. So you need to figure something out or break up because these are two totally different mentalities in marriage. OP, he is unfortunately not into the idea of counseling. Although in the past 3 years, he said he was, but recently, his mind seems to have changed a lot. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Update. Thank you all for your responses. I wanted to update you guys on what happened, and hopefully answer some of your questions along the way. I luckily don't live with him or have any shared assets. He also did explicitly say that he expects me to continue working, so I guess he wanted the best of both worlds. And before we started dating, I was hesitant due to our age gap. I have heard of horror stories, so I have been very careful about power dynamics. But he was amazing for the last 3 years, so I did put my defenses down eventually. My friends and family also liked him. They always said we genuinely seemed happy together and complimented each other well. On to what happened. He came over to my house the night I posted on Reddit, which isn't unusual. We spend most nights together after work. I knew I had to break up but didn't know how to, yet. I was still debating if I should ask him more questions or just end it. And if I end it, do I tell him everything or keep it concise? Luckily, he did not suspect anything so far, so it bought me some time to figure out my next step, I thought. As soon as he came in, though, he tried to initiate intimacy, and I said no, since I was not in the mood, understandably so. He got angry. He has never done this before. We have always had a very healthy, fulfilling sexual relationship, but now he kept trying to convince me to have sex with him and asked me why I was putting my need over his, that I can just force myself to do it for the sake of our relationship. I said that I wasn't feeling well. I know I shouldn't even have to justify, though. He said that even if I'm not feeling well, it's not an excuse. I was disgusted. I fell out of love that instant. I mean, I was already in the process of it, but this really did it. I also felt very unsafe. I stood my ground, told him that this is not consensual, and that someone's health is more important than his need for sex. I kept repeating it until he eventually stopped pushing, but he didn't leave my place until an hour later. I was afraid to anger him again by telling him to leave, so I just stayed quiet, doing stuff around the apartment until he decided to leave. Luckily, nothing happened to me, but wow. I told my friends and family everything. They supported me in my decision to break up and helped me prepare my speech. I asked him to meet me in a public space the next day as one of the comments suggested. My friends were nearby keeping an eye. He was still angry at me because I haven't been talking to him and I refused sex. He asked me why I expect him to take care of me when I'm unwell. But I didn't give him sex yesterday. I decided to not waste my breath in explaining something so basic. I went on with my breakup speech as prepared, where I told him everything, how disrespectful he's been, all the podcast stuff, etc. He suddenly looked so scared and begged me to take him back. He said he understands what I'm saying and that I'm right about the podcasts and that he will work on it. He was trying to convince me not to break up, but I did not believe anything he said. I held my ground and told him there was no room for discussion. It was over, and I left. Now I feel a weight lifted, but I am also heartbroken. I know this was the right thing to do. I just feel defeated. I wake up so anxious and feel like crying constantly. I am barely eating. I am seeing a therapist next week to help cope. If you guys have words of encouragement and maybe success stories of meeting your person, I'd love to hear. Thank you all sincerely. You all helped me in finding courage and strength in my time of need. Comment. I want a traditional marriage where I'm the man and you're the housewife and do whatever I say. But also keep your job because, get the fuck out of here, what an asshole. This gives me the same vibes as the dude who kept telling his girlfriend she smelled bad to keep her self-esteem low and was Pikachu face shocked when that didn't work. And she dumped him. How do I tell my friend that he needs to stop seeing me as his future wife? I, 20F, have been best friends with this guy, 20All-Mem, who we'll call Ben, since we were both in elementary school. Our parents are close and always fostered this friendship between us, and when we got older, encouraged a relationship. We dated for a year in our early teens before breaking up and deciding to stay friends. As I realized, I'm a lesbian. The problem is that ever since then, when he talks about his future, he always puts me in the role of his stay-at-home wife. For a while I thought it was cute that he wanted me in his life so much, since I thought that it was just a best friends dreaming about living together thing. But lately I've begun to become uncomfortable with it, as it's clear he's genuinely serious about this. It all came to a head yesterday, when he called me after getting back from a Tinder date. When I asked him how it went, he began to rant to me about how horrible the girl was and how they weren't compatible at all. During his ranting, he mentioned that she asked him what his plans for his future looked like, and then couldn't handle his response. His response to her? It was him talking about how he would have me move in with him. He would work full-time, and I would stay at home and take care of the house. And we would have a dog, a cat, and raise at least 2 children together. She obviously didn't take her date talking about what was essentially a married life with another woman well and left the date immediately, leaving him with the bill. I didn't say anything at the time, but it really put me off. Ben knows I don't want kids, nor do I want to be a stay-at-home wife. He also knows that I don't have feelings for him and can't have feelings for any man at all. The fact that he's so genuinely serious about this weird fantasy is really uncomfortable for me. So how do I confront him about this without causing issues between our families and in our friendship? Outside of this one issue, He's really a great friend, and I don't want to lose him. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks. Update. Hi all. A little bit ago, I made a post asking for advice about my friend Ben, who was making me very uncomfortable by talking about me as if I was his future wife. You can find that post here. So, after reading the comments that told me the situation was likely to escalate and that I should confront him about it and cut him off, I acted. I asked my older brothers, 25M, 23M, to come over before inviting Ben to my apartment for a talk. That way, if Ben acted out, I would have someone to both witness it and protect me. They stayed in my room with the door open while I talked to Ben in the living room. When Ben got to my apartment, he could tell something was off. I sat him down and explained that while I valued our friendship, our plans for the future did not align, and he needed to acknowledge that. I told him that I felt disrespected as a person because he knows I'm a lesbian who never wants kids, yet still puts me in the place of his future stay-at-home wife and mother of his children. He cut in saying that it didn't disrespect me because he never mentioned that he and I would be married or have children together, just that we would live together and I would help raise his kids. I pointed out that that's essentially just a couple with children and that I didn't want to raise kids at all. I then told him that we needed to take a step back from our friendship because it really wasn't healthy at this point. He calmly asked me if I was ending our friendship, and I said yes. He seemed rather calm throughout our whole conversation, so I thought that it was safe to just come out and say it bluntly. Well, that was a mistake on my part as he lost it. He didn't even say anything to me in response, just slapped me across the face and roughly shoved me off the couch. Having my brothers there was a good call, because they intervened before he could do anything else. I went into my room and locked the door while they made him leave, just in case he tried anything else. My brothers managed to successfully get him out, and after I blocked him on everything, we spent the rest of the night playing video games to take my mind off the situation. The first thing I did the next day was snitch on him to his mom. He slapped me hard enough that there was a handprint on my face, so all it took to get his family to believe me was sending a picture with my explanation. She was appalled at his behavior, and said she didn't raise her son to be that way and she was ashamed of him. She told me not to worry about him anymore, and that she and his dad would deal with him. So far, he's left me alone. Our mutual friends haven't talked to him since they found out what happened, and life is going on like normal. Any sadness that I felt at losing a friend was gone the second he laid his hands on me. If anything else happens in the next coming while, I'll update again on my personal profile. Edit. This blew up, which I wasn't expecting. I'll file a police report like everyone here is telling me to, because even if this isn't something that the police can do anything about, at least I'll have tried. Relevant comments. Good job having your brothers there and then sending evidence to his family. But you should definitely start a paper trail with this, because he will continue to escalate in all likelihood. Also, TikTok. Yeah, I have found that there is one channel in particular that alters the endings of every story to make it more interesting. Never mind that it's just lying at that point and straight up. Not what happened, and that these stories are from real people. Also, unfortunately, none of the TikTok Reddit story people I know of tend to ask permission even if they should. They just figure the story is out on the internet, so it's free reign. Which is bullshit, OP replied. Yeah, they did that to me. I've reported his videos on me and his account, as well as asked for the ones made about me to be taken down at the least. I just wanted advice, not some random dude on TikTok making up stuff about my life. Comment. It's rich how he expects the woman who doesn't want kids to be eager to raise his kids with someone else. We have come to the end of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Tell us what you think about this story in the comments.